Welcome to Tech Training. Today we are going to be covering what is a form. When you are ordering something online, you order it directly to your home. But have you ever thought of how all these functions that makes online shopping possible? Now, using HTML form, without them, you will not be able to enter your credit card details during checkout. But forms are not limited to e-commerce alone. You can use form practically everywhere in the internet. Whenever you log into your favorite app, you do it using a form. In this training, I'll take you through the steps to create a form in different input type. To put it to practice, with users enter their data on a website, an HTML form submit an HTTP request containing the data to the server. But how do you create a form in the first place? You define forms with the HTML form tag. Forms have an optional form attribute called action. Action specify the URL or path that the form should submit the request to. When the action attribute is not specified, it submits the request to the same path as the current web page. There is also the form method. With the form method, you can specify the HTTP method to use for the HTTP request. There are two HTTP methods to submit the form data: get and post. Remember, the get HTTP method retrieves information from the server. The post HTTP method sends data to the server. When a user submits a form, one of these HTTP methods is used. Now let's explore how to add field that the user can enter data into. First, let's add some simple text field. Now, if you look at your form action, let's add some simple text field. For example, a username field. The field in the form are specified by input tags. Note that the input tag does not need a closing tag. That is what your input tag. Your input tag does not need what? A closing tag. But if I want to, I could close the tag by adding a forward slash. If you want to close your input tag, you can close it using what? Your forward slash. When I use the text input text type, it displays a text field on the web page, but a text box on its own isn't very user friendly. So I will now add a label above. You add a label. By adding a label tag, the form will now display the word username above the field. You can see the label tag. I've added what? The username above. The input field. Next, let's add a password. For the password, in this case, I won't use the text input type since I don't want the password to be visible. Now, since I don't want the password to be visible, I will input. The HTML has an input type specific for password that will make the user input data. The username will be visible and the password will be masked. I need to add a button so that user can submit the form. So I add the button, the submit button. When the user clicks the submit button, the HTTP request containing the form content will be sent to the web server. Now, you use the form tag at the start of a form where after you indicate the method that should be used. You can create label for input types with the label tags, and you use the text input type for a text input like a username. For a password, you use the password input type. To add a submit button to a form, you use the submit input type. There are many different input types available. For example, you can add checkbox. To do this, you use the checkbox input type. Each box can be checked or unchecked. You use the name and value attribute to configure how the data is sent to the user to the server. You will explore this in more depth in a later training. Radio button. On the other hand, are like checkbox, except only one button can be checked on the group. Checking one radio button will uncheck all the other radio buttons. There are also other types of input such as the number, email, and file upload type. However, some input fields do not use the input tags. For instance, the multi-line text field, the text input type that I showed you earlier, is only a single line text content. To allow user to enter multiple line, I need to use the text area instead of input type. The text area. Another type of input tag does not use the input tag is drop-down list, which contain items that user can select. This time, you use the select tag and form the item on the list. You use option tags. You now know how HTML forms works and the different input types developers use. You covered forms tags such as text, password, checkbox, radio, text area, and select.